But Alex, you're also on duty for Gwangju FC versus FC Seoul. A bit of a surprise, this one, for me, in terms of which game was picked for sort of English commentary. I suppose there's a bit of interest in FC Seoul now more than before because of a certain incoming of Jesse Lingard.
Exactly. And that's why I was not surprised to see Seoul there. But I think if people are hoping to see Jesse Lingard in action this weekend, unfortunately, they're probably going to be disappointed. I don't think he'll necessarily even be on the bench. I've been led to believe that he won't be featuring in any capacity, but I'd love to be proven wrong on that. I heard your interview with a Seoul fan representative that you did this week, and I thought it's interesting to hear his analysis that, you know, for marketing reasons, it'd be better to have him appear in the home game against Incheon. But, you know, I cannot, even though, you know, I understand the value of marketing, it should never come ahead of, you know, opportunities to play players when they're fit and actual football. You know, that the marketing is there to support the football, not the other way around. Anyway, now I've said that, I think that if he's not ready to play, he's not ready to play, and it shouldn't be for marketing reasons. You know, this is an interesting fixture, though. Gwangju could easily flop this year. Gwangju, last time they got promoted, of course, with Park Jin-sub in charge, even less outspoken than Lee Jung-hyo. He did a very good job, even if not quite as impressive as what Gwangju achieved last year. And then they flopped the next season when he went to Seoul. Lee Jung-hyo has obviously stayed in charge this time, not jumping ship after that great successful season, but he's made a lot of fans, he's made a lot of enemies. He's got to face everybody, perhaps making him want to eat their words, including Seoul this weekend, and he's lost talents. You know, when you think about Gwangju last year, yes, you think about Jasir Asani, but Jasir Asani was like the cherry on top in a way. You know, he came up with some good goals that were important, but it was Lee Sun-min as the heartbeat of that core unit for Gwangju that made that team tick. And without him, can Gwangju do it over a whole season? I'm not sure. Massive question. Lee Jung-hyo will seriously prove his managerial credentials if he gets them into top half even again. And Seoul, my expectation is that overall this season they will be top half at least because of Kim Ki-dong. But I think there's a danger for teams like Jeonbuk and Seoul that they look a bit like the Chelsea and Man United of the K-League, like bringing in these players and having players with a reputation and managers with a reputation, but somehow looking like a poison chalice and underperforming. And so, you know, it's a massive season for Kim Ki-dong, massive season for Seoul. I would be tempted to say yes, they're top three, perhaps even top two, but they've proven me wrong year after year after year after year. They've seemingly made big mistakes on and off the field. I think Jesse Lingard is such a cool name for the league to bring in. He broke my heart in the cup final as a Crystal Palace fan a few years ago. There's no doubting his quality. Listening to your interview that you did, you know, the Jordan Much comparison, for example, you know, there's no comparison there, obviously, with Jesse Lingard's credentials. But it's more a question of how motivated and hungry will he be for this. I hope he will be. I hope I get to meet him soon and see in his eyes how much fire there is for this challenge, because there will need to be. You cannot underestimate what Seoul are going to face this year. And on a more exciting note, a more positive note, I think players like Ilyachenko and Kalisevich could feel like new signings. We saw the best of them in the K-League, arguably, under Kim Ki-dong with Pohang. And after they left, Pohang really suffered. A few years older, but Kalisevich is still young enough. Ilyachenko was fairly underused last year. Maybe that will keep some freshness in his legs. I would love to see those two really link up well. But then you've got the other factor of where do you put Cho Young-wook into that mix? Because I think Ilyachenko, to get the best out of him, you've got to play him every week. if they're trying to make Cho Young-uk the starting striker, I'm just not convinced by Cho Young-uk at K-League 1 level yet. I think he's a good squad player, definitely, but is he a 20-goal-a-season striker?
I don't think he's got the
to be seen.
physicality to play as a number 9 either. I think if in that sort of 4-2-3-1 that Kim Ki-dong likes to play, maybe one of the wide forwards, but then you got Willian and Jesse Lingard to play there. So it's like, it's where do you fit him in? That is going to be quite a task.
The number of foreigners. So I think the way you do it is Kang Sung-jin, the young winger, who was massively underused last year. And I know there were some injury issues, but clearly it wasn't just that. Got to play him. And I think it's knowing Kim Ki-dong, who had no problem playing youngsters at Pohang, he will play. If not Kang Sung-jin, then perhaps one or two other players who also were not used as much in attack last year. Not necessarily Kim Shin-jin, but players who'll play out wide with pace and create chances in the sort of Song Min-gyu, Go Young-jun mold. I know Go Young-jun is more central than Song Min-gyu, but this type of player you could see Kang Sung-jin developing into under Kim Ki-dong. And then you bring Willian maybe off the bench, or you bring Lingard off the bench after. I mean, Kim Ki-dong's not really a 8-minute substitute sort of guy, so Lingard won't be happy to play on the bench every game. But I think also he'll be grateful for maybe not. So just to backtrack a little, I think someone like Ilyushenko needs to play every game, but someone like Lingard having the odd half to rest won't be a terrible thing for him, because he's not played a lot of football in a while, and he will be need to be eased into this experience of joining a new league, where I think you look at the Korean players who've gone over to the UK, like Bae Jun-ho at Stoke and Baek Seung-ho at Birmingham. They're settling in really well. They're showing that the gap between K-League 1 and the Championship, the upper echelons of the Championship even, going into the Premier League is not, you look at Luton being able to stand up to the challenge of the Premier League this year, at least some of the time. Actually, the gap is not going to be some huge gulf that Lingard can just walk in and stroll around.
Yeah. Well, Seoul have had a decent record away at Gwangju since they moved to that new stadium. They won early doors there last year. That was the game that prompted the comments from Lee Jong-hyo about losing to a team that plays like that. But how do you see that? How do you see this one going in terms of result or score?
Yeah, I can see this being a 1-1 or a 2-2. I'm yet to be convinced by Seoul defensively, so that'll be interesting to watch. Kim Ki-dong doesn't have an Alex Grant. He does have an Iraqi international defender now to stick in that defense. My problem with Seoul at the moment, that what needs to be shown is that players like Ki Sung-yong and Jesse Lingard, that Kim Ki-dong can get the best out of them. And then that he can also build a solid defensive unit. I think there are some great players in that Seoul team, but he's got to make them gel and work hard together. Is he going to get like a Im Sang-hyuk style performance like he did at Pohang as well? There's actually probably 20 questions at least in that Seoul side now that need to be answered before we can get a good idea. And without knowing those answers, I cannot possibly predict that Seoul are just going to go to Gwangju and take 3 points when they're coming in cold after the winter. But long run, I think Kim Ki-dong, if he's not steering them to top 3, then something will have gone wrong. But you can say the same of the way that Chelsea have performed in the Premier League this year after everything they've done.
Yeah, it's so difficult to kind of predict how teams are going to start, because I think we've seen a lot over the years where, especially new foreign players, managers kind of take their time in bedding them in, because if they haven't been with the squad all the way through pre-season, they're deemed not fit enough and they need time to adapt, which is true, to a new country and a new league. So we're going to have more of an idea about how teams are going to look. It sounds obvious to say this, but after the first week, we'll say, okay, these players aren't fit yet, or this manager is going to play this kind of system. We'll have more of an idea after this first round. So it's going to be very interesting. All right, well, thanks for your time this morning, Alex, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Cheers.